right, this is John Kohler with GrowingYourGreens.com, and today you're watching the Urban Gardener in my backyard.
All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Urban Gardener. I want to thank you all so much for joining with me here today. And if you haven't already, please get down below there, hit that subscribe button, follow along with more garden adventures as we continue growing here on the Urban Gardener. In fact, hit that bell notification so you can be notified of upcoming episodes. And today, as you can see, we're out in sunny Las Vegas, Nevada. We're out on the strip right now, but we're not here to gamble. We're actually here to learn more about urban gardening in the Las Vegas desert from our friend John Kohler over at Growing Your Greens. So let's go sit down with him and learn a little bit more about growing in the desert. John, thank you so much for joining with us again here on the Urban Gardener, and I'm out here today to learn a little bit more about growing out here in the desert. I know that's one of the things that makes your garden just a little bit more unique than a lot of people. You're living here, you're an urban gardener in Las Vegas, and it's got to be a different type of gardening than what a lot of people out there are used to.
Yeah, so I moved here from California, where it's definitely not the desert, more humid, not quite as hot. I mean, today was over 100 degrees, and we just barely hit June. I mean, it's the beginning of June now, and it's over 100 every day, so you really gotta pay attention. So, I mean, I could just rattle off my tips. I mean, the first tip for gardens in the desert or high heat is, number one, select the right plants. I mean, There's things that would grow in California, that will just basically won't do well here. I mean, I could grow lettuce in the summer in California. Here, well, I could grow tropical lettuce. I did find a lettuce you could grow that won't bolt quick, actually, but it's like really strong tasting. So you got to pick your plants carefully. We're sitting here in my garden. I got like eggplants. Eggplants are probably one of the best heat-loving plants to grow. Okra, water spinach, a leafy green that I love to eat, Malabar spinach, Egyptian spinach. These are not related to the standard spinach that you would think of that I grow in the winter. These are, heat-tolerant leafy greens. And very, very important. Tomatoes, the smaller cherry tomatoes work a lot better than the big ones because, over like 90 degrees, tomato flowers won't really flower unless they're cherries. Then they kind of do good.
They do good, yeah.
And so
you get a lot of the less of the other problems that come with tomatoes as well, blossom end rot and all that sort of stuff.
Well, no, you could get blossom end rot here.
It happens a lot less.
The issue is the watering. So if you don't do enough water, then the plants can't absorb the calcium to bring it up there if it's in your soil, hopefully.
I just find it more with the larger tomatoes is more susceptible.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on that one. Yeah. And then, I grow a lot of peppers and then a lot of different herbs. Parsley does really well. I mean, we're looking at lavender and oregano, and you got to grow basil in the summertime, and things like the stevia grows really well, another related plant. My mint is just going off right now.
Yep.
And
as you can only see just part of the garden right now as we're looking at it, there are a ton of things growing in this garden. So
it's like packed.
So there's a lot you can actually grow in this environment, and you've got a lot of proof of that here. I'm sure there's probably a lot of watering and everything that need to be done.
Yeah, so number one is I recommend not to hand water. You could do it if you're out here constantly, but you got to have an irrigation system. Think about it. Do we glug down water early in the morning? We're going to need 2 gallons today. We could drink 2 gallons right in the morning when you wake up. Actually, that I think probably could kill you if you did that, drinking that much water. You'd probably get flooded out or something. But you can't just water your plants once a day, right? Yeah. If we get hot, we sweat, we lose water. We need to drink more water, throughout the day. I just drank watermelon juices instead of water, myself. But our plants also need to cool down during the day. They will transpire. We perspire, they transpire. So they pull up water through their vascular system and they basically release it through their leaves to cool them down like a dog pants. This is like the plant panting, literally pulling up water to cool itself down. And when you water with water from the ground, it's coming in at a lower temperature than just the ambient 100-degree temperature. I mean, my water might be 60 to 70 degrees or something like that. So that differential really makes it different for the plants. And, so it comes on, in the middle of the day to help cool them off so they get a drink.
Yeah, that sun and that heat can bear down on plants a lot, so giving them and making sure that they do have that moisture in order to make sure that they can sustain themselves throughout that day. So you want to make sure that you have a really good setup, and then probably, as you're saying though too, is have it timed out throughout the day to make sure that they're getting water throughout the day. Excellent. And so the another thing I'm also thinking about too, though, when it's coming to gardening around here and all that, and things that I see too, is, I mean, a lot of people have like yards and things. So I'm not thinking like, there's a lot of rock and a lot of that sort of stuff as far as what people use and that sort of thing. So I'm thinking there's not much soil down there.
Yeah. So I mean, it's very rich in like minerals, but not organic matter. So that's the other thing that's very important is you need. I brought in like all the soil and all the raised beds. I do not plant in the ground. Now you could plant in the ground and build your soil up, but I chose to grow in raised beds and bring in the soil. It's a lot easier to bring in the organic matter, and then I add a lot of other things into it that some people might debate as unnecessary. I would say for my gardening style, they are absolutely necessary, like the trace minerals and rock dust and like worm castings, like soil humates. I mean, I have a list of like all these things I could go down. But, the main things are the rock dust and the worm castings. I'd say probably the humates, too. Good fungal compost, very important. Besides the bacterial compost, it's more commonly available.
The raised beds is probably your best bet, though, if you are kind of gardening, though, in this type of area, right? Wouldn't you say?
No, I would actually say, like, they have, like, self-irrigated planters, so raised beds that are self-irrigated, or actually in my upcoming video that it's not released yet, there's like a Lear bed. It's a new style bed that actually will automatically water, and it's not constant water. But that's very important, keep your plants with proper moisture, because they'll dry out really fast. I mean, just like sitting here, like water's evaporating out of our skin, so you need to drink twice as much water as a human being. So I've just wondered about the plants. They have a lot more, especially as they get bigger, so you got to change the amount of water. And also it's important, in the soil to have organic materials like coconut coir and peat moss that'll hold on to some of that water and release it, throughout the day.
Excellent. What do you find is kind of like some of the drawbacks? Are like you dealing with different type of pests, or you dealing with different type of say fungal diseases or anything like that with the things that you're growing here?
Well, there's good news and there's bad news. So the good news is, I don't get a lot of fungal diseases because it is so dry. So, they thrive in humid conditions because it is so dry. Actually, a lot of things I don't have problems with, like, a lot of these problems that just common gardeners have. Like, they're just not an issue here because it's so dry, unless you screw up bad, you're pretty much maybe at the end of the season when it gets more moist or during the monsoon. But most of the time it's dry, you're not going to get powdery mildew and like other things that might affect other gardeners. The pests for me have been pretty much the same as they were in California. I don't see any major new or different pests. The challenge living here is that we don't have like a really good frost. So like some of the pests don't like just get wiped out and
they're not gone for a while.
They're not gone for a while, so they're kind of like here constantly, so that's not really necessarily the best thing. So it makes it a bit more difficult. But so I had like big aphid outbreaks in the last season. But then the solution to aphid outbreaks is not like spray organic pesticides to kill them. It's to, hey, why do I have pests? Well, I need to improve my soil to balance out my soil so that, the plants could create a strong immune system because I'm providing all the nutrients they need in the soil so that they could deter pests. Because think about it, all throughout history, world history, plants did not get sprayed with neem and Dr. Bronner's.
Yeah, that's right.
They had to fend for themselves, and if they have the right inputs or the right foods in the soil, the right conditions, they're not stressed out, they can make all their plant metabolites that will literally defend them from against the pests.
And if you've got good soil and you're growing really, strong plants, they're going to kind of outgrow some of that pest pressure too, though. That's one of the things I find. I'm dealing with those little earwigs, and they love my spinach. You know what I mean? But if I got everything right and I got the spinach growing right, the spinach is just growing too fast for them, even, So then you can just kind of share.
Right, yeah, I do that too, you know. Like I share all my goji berries with the birds.
You talked a little bit about like not being able to grow certain types of lettuces here are you able, those colder weather things or those sort of things, are you able to do in an off season at
Oh,
all?
absolutely. So I have two main seasons here. I can grow year round here. And in the off season, I mean, the bed over there just, 2 months ago, it had like 100 heads of lettuce in there. So I grow plenty of lettuce in the winter, fall, winter.
It's growing.
Yeah, growing my greens. I had all kales and collard greens, and this bed had broccoli before I replaced it with now basil, which is another leafy green.
So that is kind of something that works in development in your garden, is kind of like a little bit, as myself or others in part of the rest of the United States are following this certain schedule, but here in these lower
different.
states you're kind of thinking just a lot earlier, or especially even like when it comes to even like starting some of your summer plants.
Oh, that's very critical actually. Right now it's
Your
100 degrees,
eggplants
so
are
like
way bigger than mine.
yeah, so like that's the other thing. You got to plant early, especially if you want to get tomatoes, because if you plant too late, because just starting, well, usually in July is when it hits 100. I mean, it's hitting 100 already because things are getting warmer. But
Yeah,
like
it
once
sure
things
is.
are getting 100 and they're constant 100, man, the plants kind of slow down a little bit. In like the 80 to 90 degree range, which is usually all of June for the most part, the plants are really getting up to size. They're producing their green tomatoes, and then in the heat they'll ripen, but they won't necessarily make more. So you really have to be on it with planting. You can't plant too late, and I mean that's why some of the nurseries in town literally stop. You can't find plants at non-big box nurseries right now to buy and put in your garden. They just simply don't sell them because people will not be successful and try doing transplants in 100 degrees. I mean, I've done it successfully, but the average person that's just going to take a plant, put it in, and then it just gets beat down by the sun because they did it in the middle of the day, you're going to lose the plants. I mean, I got techniques. You got to plant it at the end of the day, so then it stays in overnight, then it gets the morning weather, and then I cover it with some shade fabric so like it doesn't get direct sun. You got to harden off plants. I mean,
Yep.
there's a whole method to the madness.
Yeah, we just did all of that sort of stuff myself with all of our peppers and all of that, and again, when it comes right down, as you're saying, things are just getting warmer earlier, even for myself in my region and all of that. I mean, where I'm usually planting my peppers, they're usually fine just going, for their first couple of weeks, but the sun and the 100-degree weather hit us real early, and of course you got to get that shade cloth over them and give them a fighting chance to be able to survive through all of that, especially when they're young like that. But I'm sure more so here, you've got to really be on top of this sort of thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you plant early enough, right, the plants adjust themselves because the temperature inches up like every day, like from, whatever, 80, 81, 82, 83, all the way to 90s. And then, we hit 100. Oh, yeah, the plant's like, I'm good. It was 99 yesterday and it's 101. That's only 2 degrees different. But if it goes 70 degrees to 100 the next day, then your plants are freaking out. They're screwed because they have not built the tolerance to deal with that, and especially with the, changing climate that's so crazy.
Right,
I mean, you really got to make your garden more resilient to handle it in the future, in my opinion, or you're not gonna have a garden.
Any other really fundamental tips or anything like that you can think of?
So probably another tip would be that you need to pay attention when your plants are ready to harvest, because it is so hot and so intense that literally if you don't get a plant, if your tomatoes are forming, they could literally get sunburned because the UV intensity is so hot. So you better harvest them when they're ready, or else they could really crack and go bad, or they could get sunburned. So some people will cover their plants with cover each fruit with a shade cloth.
I've seen that before, yeah.
Yeah, so the tomatoes don't get burned. I don't do that with any of my plants, and I try
Just
to
get them ripe.
keep them resilient so that they don't burn. But occasionally I get a spot on a pepper that is kind of hollow and messed up because I wasn't paying attention. But my goal is to have healthy plants so I don't have to do that.
So, growing in the desert's got a lot of different qualities that are different than growing in a regular garden, as we well know, right here in your garden, John. And I want to thank you so much for joining with us again here on our channel and sharing some of your great knowledge about gardening. I encourage all of you to go and check out John's channel for more information on growing here in the desert in Las Vegas.
Yeah, you can check me out at Growing Your Greens. I'm wearing my shirt today. Yeah, I have over 1,600 videos teaching about gardening, both in the desert, and then I have a lot of old videos at my place in California. Plus, I travel around a lot to give you guys a wide view of how to grow food. I mean, it's always regional, so you got to take regional influences. And I always encourage you guys to source local seeds whenever possible and save your own seeds, you know, to grow them as well. Some of the plants in my garden are just volunteers, actually, all my understory. Oh, the other thing, my other tip, very important, forgot, is you want to make sure that you cover your ground, whether you want to do mulching, you know,
Yes.
with the things that aren't alive, or I like to do living mulches, or just plant super tight, super dense. Like most people would not plant their eggplants, I don't know, 10 inches apart, but I do that because I want the leaves to cross over each other and like create a little canopy zone for like the soil, so it keeps the soil cool, so that all the sun that comes down are hitting the leaves of the plants and never could see the soil. And this keeps the soil cooler, and also, you know, just to have the plants closer together, because I don't have all the fungal diseases and we don't need as much air flow because it's not humid. I could get away with doing this and have good soil. Sometimes the plants probably would like a little bit more, you know, because their leaves are crowding out each other. But you know, the thing I think is that, you know, they're gonna figure out their shit, and they're just gonna grow harder to get bigger to get their own sun.
But ultimately, keeping them close enough together right there is doing one of the most important things, and that's fundamentally having great, healthy soil for your plants. It's the one thing that's going to give them the best opportunity to produce more, be big plants, and you know, make your garden the most productive it can be. And again, thanks, John, for joining us here today. And if you all like this video, please give it a thumbs up and hit that like button. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or anything at all, get down in that comment section below. We'd love to hear from all of you. And again, if you haven't hit the subscribe button, hit that subscribe button and follow along with more garden adventures here on The Urban Gardener. And we'll see you on the next one. Gets me warm, and did that. I went to go visit Kate Cottrell, and I did a whole video and all this stuff. And
In California.
when she was in
Because
California.
she's not there anymore.
Yeah. And then I get home and I look at all the footage, and I got sunglasses up on my head the whole time.
Yeah.
I know, but for me, I don't know why. I think about it. I'm like, hey, you could have told me I had my sunglasses on the whole time. So, all right, John, thank you so much for
The Urban Gardener. Is that right?
yeah, is that
Urban. What am I?
the Urban Gardener?
Okay.